Welcome to Spectrum Sundays. I am Megan Sinisi, a Master of Health Science candidate studying to practice as a pediatric speech-language pathologist. I am also Miss Central Pennsylvania and the founder of a nonprofit organization for autism titled From a New Perspective.
And I am Francesca D'Alessandro, a current master's student at University of Buffalo studying speech-language pathology. Additionally, I am your Miss Thousand Islands of New York State, serving my community through AAA appreciation and awareness for autism.
Everyone deserves to feel accepted and included in every space they walk in. Our series aims to inspire you to advocate for yourself and on behalf of your loved ones, and we are so grateful that you're here with us today. This week on Spectrum Sundays, we are excited to welcome Larry Humphreys. Larry is a double master clinical psychologist and a Board Certified Behavior Analyst, or BCBA. Larry has over 21 years of experience working with individuals with autism, special needs, and their families. He is also a business owner of two companies, Behavioral Autism Therapies and Special Needs Coffee in Ontario, California. Larry's ultimate goal is to make a difference in the lives of others by providing high-quality behavioral intervention services and implementing effective applied behavior analysis, or ABA, strategies. Larry is currently an adjunct professor for the Applied Behavioral Analysis Certification Program at National University in Ontario, California. So Larry, you are a very accomplished professional, and we're very excited to get to know you better. Could you start by giving us a quick resume of your experiences with autism in your education?
Awesome. Well, I just want to first off and thank you for having me, Megan and Francisco. And I just wanted to say I've been working in the field for 21 years or more. I started off as a therapist, and I really fell in love with the first child that I had the pleasure of working with. And from there, I wanted to actually learn more about it. I thought it was extremely fascinating, some of the behaviors that that particular kiddo was exhibiting. And I just wanted to kind of get to know more about autism because I just didn't want to be a babysitter. I really wanted to be truly someone that impacted this child's life in a high quality way. So I went off and went to Pepperdine University and got my MFT degree. And I realized that the industry kind of changed and you needed to be a BCBA. So I went back and got another master's in applied behavior analysis. And with all of the experience that I've had, I worked at Burbank Unified School District, for a period of time as a consultant. And I learned a lot of great information related to the academic side of how to apply academic strategies to kids with autism. And I used those skills, and I just went off and went and worked in the ABA setting in home. And again, it's very fascinating to be in the home, to work with the child in their environment, to see the parents, to see some of the challenges that they may have, but also not just a parent. Sometimes the siblings are sometimes overlooked. So one of the things that I tried to do was really try to understand the whole family dynamic. And then with understanding the whole family dynamic, it really gave me an understanding of how to support that child with autism that I had the honor to be able to work with. And I've been working with kids with autism for 21 years. I started off as a therapist. I was a therapist for 10, and then became a supervisor and just continued to grow. There was one point that I realized that there needs to be more quality ABA agencies. So I sought off and tried to create one for passion, not for money. It was more about just truly the passion of wanting to help kids in their quality of life. Not to say anything negative about ABA agencies, but there are some that are just more about the money than it is about truly the family and the child. But there's not a lot, but I do say I wanted just to be something different. And our agency has been blessed to have over 1,000 families that we service in 3 different counties, in the California region, in San Diego, and in Ontario, the Inland Empire, and also in kind of the suburbs of Los Angeles, which is kind of Covina, West Covina region. And we've been blessed, I want to say, to grow our company with over 300 employees. And through that experience, we realized, what are these kids with autism going to do once we graduate them from our ABA program? And that kind of started us to think, there's nothing out there in the world for kids with autism that makes them feel accepted. And that's where we paired the special needs coffee idea. And it's been an amazing experience for our kids and for the community.
Well, I'm really excited to hear more about your personal connection, especially to the autism community, because that is how Megan and I really became such strong advocates, is because we have such a strong personal connection to the families and the individuals out there. And I'm really excited to learn more, especially about your professional experience too, and what your opinions are and what you've seen in the field. And it's really interesting that you talk about how oftentimes the siblings are overlooked, because we've talked about that a couple of times on our series before. And I think a lot of times professionals might forget that a lot of these disorders or neurodivergencies are genetic, and they might also be present in the siblings or in the parents and caregivers of the children. And we have to just be mindful of that, and also provide strategies so that everyone can be successful at home or in school or in the workplace. But you did talk a little bit about how you went into higher education after your time as a therapist. So I'm interested to know how your research experience was effective and you were able to implement that into your everyday work life.
Great question. And I think it's so important that we do use research. There's so many professionals well before us that have really done a really amazing job of giving us the platform so that we can continuously be successful. And the research out there for kids with autism stipulates that autism is a neurological disorder, which affects the brain. So we're looking at identifying what and how we can add the neurons, which is information to the brain, to be able to enhance their quality of life. And one strategy that we've done really great, or one research, is motivation. And if a child is motivated, a child or anyone will do so much, but it's just to try to find that true motivation within a child. And the research has shown that positive reinforcement has been a major contributing factor to not just a child, but the whole family dynamic. So when we talk about not just a child, but the whole family, the sibling, we try to incorporate into our sessions and reinforce the fact that, I know it could be a little challenging, but what a great brother or sister you are. And just hearing how a random person tell that brother or sister how amazing, you can tell their energy change, because they don't hear it all the time. And sometimes when you can change the behavior of a sibling, they seem to go and work hard for their sibling, which is helping that child with autism that much more. So the research shows that it's really about parent involvement. It's really about family involvement. And the more family involvement that you can have, the more success that you find with these kids with autism and special needs.
Right, absolutely. And I can really appreciate how you're taking a holistic approach with your therapies at Behavioral Autism Therapies and integrating that researched evidence-based practice. We know from our professional graduate experience how critical those research-based practices are. But I feel that some families can be, or people in general, are reluctant to rely completely on research because it kind of eliminates those anecdotal things like involving the family and emotions. So that's not concrete really to go off emotions, but it's still a very important factor to consider when you're treating your patients or clients. So it's great to see that and hear that you're implementing that in your practice. I'm really interested to talk more about BAT and how, obviously this didn't happen overnight. You didn't conceptualize this. So what was that process like? And what were some of the underpinning hopes and dreams that you had for it? And maybe even how far it's grown so far since you've made it come to light?
And when it first came to a thought, it was more about the quality of service. It was more about how can you provide a service that was just not just for the child, but for the overall family. So one of the main concepts that we incorporated, which was different than most of all ABA companies in California, is that we incorporate 100% family involvement. And 100% family involvement created the parent and not just the mom, but also the dad to be integrated into the session. And it made it seem where therapy was able to continue when the therapist left. And that was the hope that when I was working in a field as a therapist, sometimes I was a great therapist based upon what the feedback that I got. But when I left, it seemed like therapy stopped because the parent and the caregivers weren't involved into the therapy. So it's almost like every day we were starting over because there was never any dissemination of information to the parents that allowed for them to be able to be therapists and continue the strategies that were successful with their child. So when we integrated 100% family involvement, it really gave the parents the tools that they needed to be successful and an understanding. As you mentioned, Megan, research is not the only important entity. It's really about where the parent is at. And we found that sometimes the parents were in denial. Sometimes the parents were in acceptance. Sometimes when you are in denial, that means maybe you're a little not ready for information. And some of the information that you receive may be too overwhelming for you. So we wanted to always identify where was the mom or the family. And because of that family approach, we were able to have a team-oriented processes that allowed for therapy to happen throughout the day, not just when the therapist came into the equation. And I believe that was very important in a sense of research, is that there wasn't a lot of ABA companies that were integrating the parent or the family into the sessions. And when we looked at the research, we realized that if we do that, we would see a lot more success. And that's kind of I want to say the foundation of behavioral autism therapies. It's family oriented, where families can speak their opinion and say, hey, this is the strategy that I would like. And we would say, that's a great strategy, because we are the professional, right? But so is the parent. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes ABA agency forget that the parents are professionals too, and how to incorporate the parent, which is the professional of their child, into this ABA dynamic. And once you are able to do that really well, parent, therapists, clinicians are able to mesh, the child seems to grow very, very, very successfully.
I love how you explained that so well, because the parent or the caregiver is such an integral part of the child's progress, and using positive reinforcement strategies and affirmation strategies and really making them part of the treatment plan is going to make leaps and bounds in their progress. And it also, it's good for us too, because as professionals, because we get to learn how to package that information in a way that's digestible, because we're so used to terminology that is difficult to understand or complicated, but being able to put it into layman's terms is, I think, a professional skill that you learn over time, but it's so important to gain that experience. And it seems like you do a lot for your clients, which is really great to hear. What are some of the long-term objectives that you have for BAT?
Well, I think the long-term objective is really about the overall team. We would like to see not just our therapists become better therapists, but become supervisors. So what BAT has done is we've actually partnered with National University. And because of my experience with National as a professor, we actually have National integrated within our company. So people come to our actual office site to get the education. And that's been extremely, I want to say, beneficial for us, is that we're not just growing kids, we're actually growing the community, which is the therapist. And we're making sure that they have the knowledge and the passion to continue on to help this, our community, because autism is ongoing. It's not just going to be here today and gone tomorrow. It's forever. So we hope that we can continue to get better and better. So one of the hopes is just to continue to educate the next generation so that we continuously get better for our families and for our community. And that's the hope. It's not just for the child to be able to grow and graduate and to be successful, but it's also for our therapist to get something out of it, not just to come to a company and say, okay, I did great with child, but all right, now I'm gone and what else do I have, right? I want them to be able to come to Behavioral Autism Therapies and grow, get a degree, and to continue on either with Behavioral Autism Therapies or another ABA organization and help kids and families grow, because it's not just about one company, it's about us as a whole.
Yes. There's space for us all. I know that in the industry and the competition between businesses, it can feel like you're competing with each other, but there's room for everybody, and it's really great. I can very much value you taking in interns and students to learn and grow hands-on in the environment, because fortunately I've had that experience as a speech pathologist graduate student, and I felt like I grew the most as a clinician in that space, where I could kind of spread my wings a little bit and try out some different things, but also still being under the supervision of someone, so I know that they can pop in if there is anything going down the wrong way. So I can value that, and I think that's a phenomenal goal to set for your company, because that'll only increase the value of ABA services in your area, and then more people will feel more comfortable to send their kids to have these services and feel that it's really there for a good reason, and not just to get the kids graduated and on to the next thing that life brings them to. So you mentioned earlier that BAT serves over 1,000 different families in the Southern California area. So for anyone that might be unfamiliar with what ABA is, could you explain what those services are and how they benefit children with autism?
Yes. ABA services is applied behavioral analysis. It's a service to improve on the quality of life for children with autism, to improve on socially significant behavior. Our service is to either go into the home or into the school district that kid may be living in, and provide them with the support that they need with the behavioral support plan. We actually have a team of doctors that we actually have 4 doctors, and we actually go and make sure that we do an FBA. With the FBA, which is a functional behavioral assessment, that allows for us to create a behavioral support plan. With that plan, we then go and create programs that is more suited for the child. So we create individualized programs for that particular child and for that family. And then we create data to see if we're being successful or not successful. If we're not being successful, the data will tell us, and we can create different strategies to create the success. And if we are being successful, we want to be able to not, like if a kid can touch their nose, and if another person says, touch your nose, the kid will just say, I'm not going to do it because I already know. And it's kind of like redundant. So it's important that we understand that where the kid knowledge is at, so that we don't like we grow them and challenge them instead of keeping them at a stagnated level. So with ABA services, it's very important to look at data to utilize where you're going with. So sorry, let me just kind of break it down. I do apologize. Is that we take skills and break it down to small sets. So if, say, hypothetically, a kid has a hard time with being compliant to the teacher, maybe it's not the compliance, maybe the kid has a hard time sitting. So we work with them on just sitting appropriately. You know, a lot of individuals think that sitting crisscross applesauce on the ground is easy. And for kids with autism is really hard. And that can be a behavior that needs to be taught. Because if it's not taught, then it can lead to other behaviors that can distract the students around them and maybe the teacher. So we go in and try to help with teaching on skills that can help them be more suitable for the environment and for their life. Either knowing how to make friends, knowing how to speak, knowing how to do toilet training. A lot of kids, at 6 years old are still in diapers when they come to our company. So the first thing that we want to do is really teach them how to be independent. And I tell our staff is that that's very important, because just imagine if you're 12 years old and your mom is wiping your bottom. That's not as being you're not feeling like a 12-year-old. So, so there are things that we really teach, which is socially important behaviors, and we take data to assure that we're moving into an appropriate direction with the kid and with the family's support.
Right. And I think from my personal experience, sometimes creating those plans can take some time between collecting the data and creating that habit or routine for the child and seeing if it's successful and trying new things. It can really put a strain on the professionals working with the child, whether it be the therapists, the direct support professionals, the teachers. So what are some tips that you can share for some of the professionals who are working with these children as they're going through this process of finding an effective plan for them?
The number one thing I would share is can I see your smile? Look how amazing that is. I would just share that first, because a smile changes behavior, and behavior change doesn't happen overnight. And a smile and good rapport with the family and your therapist allows for you to continue to work until that occurs. So the first thing is to know that behavior, you're not going to go into the house and change it just like that. It's going to take time. And you have to really have a good relationship with the parent and with the child, because there's going to be times where you're going to have to dance in the rain when things are not that great, and you still have to be able to show that amazing smile and be able to show that it's okay, and which is resiliency. And we're trying to teach our parents and our therapists how to be resilient, because our kids are learning resiliency, and they only learn it through us. And if we give up and if we don't smile, then they're going to just continue to tantrum and have a hard time, because we are in some aspects a little bit more, I think kids with autism are just like us, or individuals. We're all equally well off. It's just that we have a little bit more skills than others, right? So we're trying to teach these individuals the skills that they need to be as functional as they can, but we have to do it in a positive way, because there's a lot of things that they're not going to be successful in the beginning. And if we don't teach resiliency and positivity and rapport, we'll never get to our ultimate goal, because it could be too daunting. It can be very frustrating. It can be really hard. And I've seen a lot of parents' tears, a lot of therapists' frustrations, and I just have to let them know that it's okay. We just have to chip away. It's not going to happen overnight, but let's just, kuma tada and hug each other, and let's have some fun. Let's talk about something positive, because we inadvertently get caught up in the negatives. As behavior analysts, we're here to focus on the behavior that is challenging, which is at times a negative. But a great behavior analyst always points out the positives and tries to just hide, to the best of our abilities as we're working on it, some of the negative things, because it could be overwhelming for the parent and also for the clinician that's working directly with the child.
Right. It's so important to start off with building that trust and a sense of comfort with not only the child, but the family. That way, like you said, your goal is to involve the entire family. So, in order to get them invested in what their child is doing with a therapist or clinician, you definitely have to build that rapport. And something that you mentioned too, along explaining what ABA is, modifying behaviors. So there has been a lot of controversy about ABA within the autism community. Some people are for it, some people aren't sure that it's the best type of therapy for what they're searching for. And what Francesca and I have learned along the way is that it's mainly the modifying autistic behaviors to be more atypical that people are uncomfortable with. So, for anyone that might be listening that do have reservations about ABA, could you help explain the benefits of the therapy and how you may encouragingly respond to those concerns that they raise?
Yes, I think the concerns typically are risen based upon some of the modalities that are used in ABA, such as discrete trial training. It could be very intense, where maybe the parent may not be familiar with pivotal response training, which is a more looser approach. ABA research shown is the best approach for individuals with autism and special needs. It's better than any medication. It's better than any other services that are out there, but it can be very intense. And if it's not explained to the parent the right way, the way that the parent can hear it, it can be overwhelming. And a random person coming into your home, doing, redirecting your child, and it can be very intense. And that's where I always want to explain to parent that DTT and PRT and TEACH method, which is a method that you're utilizing in a school system, what's best for your child. And I really want to use more positive approaches, because the research shows that that is what's more beneficial. But also what we find is that our clinicians are not always well trained when they go out to the family's home. And because of it, then the parent is reluctant because they're not comfortable with that therapist. And then the BCBA will come out, say all these fancy words, make the parent feel good again, but the BCBA is not the one actually facilitating the work. It's the clinician. So it's really about training. It's really about how we train the clinician and how well we're allowing the parent to be involved into the process. Sometimes it is very scary for a parent to just be hands off when they are so concerned and they love their kid like no one else does. So I think for those parents, and the reason why a lot of parents are at times reluctant, is because of their lack of involvement and explaining of what truly ABA is. Some organizations do, they use DTT, which is discrete trial training. And then and a lot of people think that's ABA. That's just a modality that is utilized. And there's a lot of other modalities that's used, but that's where it's important to educate the parent so that they can know, like, all right, does this agency use this type of approach or this approach or these approaches? Because I think this approach would be more beneficial for my child under this ABA umbrella. Because I don't like the intensive approach. Maybe I like more a looser approach. And that's sometimes not as offered, because a lot of organizations are not as sophisticated on the different modalities of ABA. So they just use what we consider a low-VOS modality, which is the discrete trial training. And that can be very intense. So ABA, though, for those families that are reluctant, I would say, first off, I understand, but I would also ask for you to give it another chance and look at the research, and shows that And because the research does show that it is the #1 service to improve the quality of life of kids with autism, is just if that organization is best for you. And,
I
you
like-
know, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, it's okay.
You can keep going.
Okay. No, I was just going to say that, you know, I understand, and I don't want to, you know, force a family to like ABA. I just want them to really get more knowledge on it, because it may not be where they're as enlightened about the whole picture of ABA and why they can be reluctant as well.
And I really like how you mentioned this concept that clinicians might lack confidence or competence when they're going out into the field and practicing these strategies, which can greatly impact the results and how the parents or caregivers feel about these strategies once they see how it works. So it could, from what I understand, how you're saying, it could vary from clinician to clinician, even though these strategies are empirically supported.
Correct. And even at our organization, we do a training of a week. And at the end of that week, you have to pass a test of 90% or higher to make sure that you have your competency. But even with the 90% or higher, we do still see therapists that go out and are very shocked when they see the child in person, and they're overwhelmed. They're very knowledgeable, that clinician, but they're just overwhelmed with what they see for the very first time. And parents are like, well, I don't want that person. They look like a deer in the headlights. And sometimes the parents don't give a chance either, because they want someone to come in immediately and make that change. So it's kind of like where we're trying to bring two universes into one. A new clinician that just graduated and wants to come into the field and learn, and they don't know what it looks like, but they really want to help. And then when they finally see it, they're like, wow, I don't think I can do this. This seems too much for me. And then the parent sees that and doesn't give them a chance. And then guess what? There's no reinforcement. Therapist leaves. Parent wants another person. Now it's a constant turnover. But I think if we can give more knowledge from the beginning and let the parents know, and what our team does a really great job, I believe, and I think anybody can always do better, is that we tell the parent, hey, when you get the new therapist, they have to get to know you and your child too. So you're gonna know that this person is knowledgeable, but they're not gonna be as knowledgeable with your child until they get to know your child. So it's gonna take a week or two for that, and that's what we consider our rapport building phase. And then our rapport building phase is literally a very important phase to assuring that the program is going to be successful. Because if the rapport is not built between the child and the therapist, and most importantly, the parent and the therapist, we're not going to see the success that is needed for that particular program. So it's a lot of integral components, but because we've been in the field for like 20 plus years, our team really kind of works together in trying to eliminate all these, what we consider extraneous variables.
Right. And I think the way that you explain that is really great. And I think will help a lot of the professionals that we have in our audience to kind of understand how all of those components work together, because nothing is ever really textbook in the field. There's always different nuances, which can be really scary for a novice professional. I guess I'm speaking from personal experience, but it can be a little intimidating at times because you know what to do, but then the execution of it just doesn't always really work out as we plan. But I'm going to be kind of changing topics and talking about the token response app that you've developed that focuses on behavioral change. So could you explain a little bit about what the process was behind creating it and how it could be useful for families as a tool?
Yes, thank you, Francisca, on that. I created token response maybe about 20 years ago. I was working with a kid as a therapist, and I realized there wasn't a lot of tools that I had to actually redirect his behavior besides my voice, right? No, don't do that. No, stop. No, you can't do that. Oh, great job. You're amazing. Great job. Right? Now, for kids, they don't really vibe on that. They actually vibe on like, all right, are you going to give me a cookie? Are you going to let me watch Thomas the Train? Are you going to, let me do something fun? So token response was created because I was actually getting bit a lot in a session with the little kiddo, but this kiddo loved Thomas the Train. So I said, you know what? If you don't bite me, you get 5 happy faces. You get to watch Thomas the Train. If you bite me, which is 3 X's, then you actually don't get a chance to watch Thomas the Train or have access to your reinforcer. And what I did is I didn't realize that I was using 2 different clinical modalities at that time because I was a new clinician, just trying to survive out there. But I realized that I was using token economy system, which is adding something in. And then I was also using response cost, which is taking something away, right? And I realized if you use a token response system and you take something away that the child earned, the child doesn't want to actually work for it anymore because they feel like it's just going to be taken away. And if you just constantly give a child happy faces all the time and you have nothing for when they do something inappropriate, then it kind of is contradictory to how do you change behavior, because you can't address the negative behavior in a sense of saying, hey, that's not okay. And then the research shows you want to use affect. Well, if all 3 of us use our affect of happiness or anger, we're all going to use affect differently. So I wanted to create a black and white, something very concrete for our kids that they were able to visually understand, because it was more for them, not so much for the clinician, for them to understand their behavior, what they were doing good, what they weren't doing that was not that great. So I created and combined what we consider token response. I took 2 modalities of token response and response cost through my master's program at Pepperdine. And I actually created a new modality, which is called token response. For many years, I was using it on a piece of paper with a pencil and paper. And I realized because of just my environmental friendliness, I was like, I don't really feel comfortable because I'm killing a lot of trees. So I was like, so we went to laminating. But then I realized that a lot of families really liked it. And it really was extremely a successful behavior change strategy. So parents were actually taking this out to the community. And I actually had a very, how would you say, a very wealthy family. And she did not like taking just a regular old laminate out of her purse. So I made her a Louis Vuitton token response thing on a laminate. And she was the happiest mom. She would go out and give her kids happy faces, X's with her Louis Vuitton response sheet, and I realized, so from there we started to cater. And then we realized the technology has changed. Our world is changing. It's not about pencil and paper. So we created an app with it, and it's been a successful app. We actually have individuals from all over the world now that actually download our app, from China, from Canada, from Japan, from Italy, from Chile. So it's actually pretty fascinating that people have taken this new modality that really you won't get from a textbook right now, because I unfortunately haven't had an opportunity to integrate it into the Java articles or any other textbooks yet. But that's something that is soon to come. But this modality is being used all over Southern California and all over the world right now because of the fact that you don't have to yell or consequence your child in a negative way. You just give them an X. It's like baseball. It's a strike. You don't have to yell. You don't have to look angry. It's like, here, bud, it's a strike. 2 more strikes. Unfortunately, we can't go play outside. We have to keep working. But look, bud, if you do this really well, you get a happy face. And 5 happy faces, we can go outside and play together. So it really gives a child that opportunity to make a good choice for themselves. And it gives the clinician and the parent a tool that they can use to help the child make better choices and to change behaviors. So it's been a very successful modality so far. And I just hope that others will, continue to enjoy it. But it is a really great modality that I created, and it will hopefully be in the textbook soon.
It's so great to hear how far and wide it has reached so far. And as you were explaining it being more visual and more expectant for the child, they know what's coming. So they know if I get XYZ, or if I do XYZ, then I get this. It sets up more of a schedule for them to anticipate what might happen. And what we know from working with autistic people and individuals is that they rely on that dependence of what comes next, and whenever that's not visible or concrete to them, then it isn't always easy for them to move forward. So it sounds like an incredible app. Is it a free app, or is it something that can be purchased?
Well, we wanted to have it free because we wanted it for the parents to use. It wasn't for us to make money off of. It was more for the parents to continue to have a tool out there to enhance the quality of life of their child without having to yell at them or be very, in some way, negative towards their child.
Right. Well, that's wonderful. So for anyone watching who's interested, you can definitely look it up. Token Response app on the App Store or Google Play. Probably you can access it in both of those places. So thank you for sharing about that, Larry. I'd love to go back to some of the ABA principles and things that you implement into your practice. On Spectrum Sundays, we really work to combat some of the misconceptions about autism. And of course, ABA, you're trying to help a child fit more into their environment and to be able to modify some of their behaviors so that they can be more successful in the environment around them. But we also know that our environment isn't necessarily made well for the individuals that we serve, because of just their natural characteristics that come with their autism diagnosis. So, if there's anything that you hope in this episode people can understand about autism that's often misunderstood, what would you share, whether about behaviors or just characteristics of autism that are often misunderstood?
I think it's misunderstood that they want to be isolative. Kids want to actually be around. It's just hard for them. And there is some research, or I want to say not research, but there was some information out there that kids do not have empathy. Our kids with autism really love, and they want to love. They want to be friends with people. It's just, it's just hard for them. And I think the biggest piece is when you see a child that maybe with autism may not be nonverbal, that doesn't mean that they don't understand what's going on in their environment. And I think I would love for people to know, like, if a child cannot maybe say hi to you verbally, that they are saying hi to you internally. And if you can just say hi back and be so positive with them, it would really warm their heart and make them feel more accepted into the world. I think what I would really want to get out of it is with ABA is we're trying to create socially acceptable behaviors for our kids, but we want to assure that our society is accepting of them because they're trying so hard to be a part of society. But I know at times our society is still learning about our kids. And like you were saying, the misperceptions. So I think the biggest misperception is that our kids don't want to be around people. They don't want to socialize. Our kids want to socialize so much. It's just not given all the opportunities. And when you're still struggling with words or just how to do things, if the world is not accepting, you just kind of just say, they're not going to like me. I'm just going to stay over here. So what we've done is that we've always tried to say, if you find a child with autism or know a child with autism, just go give them a high five and tell them that they're amazing. Because I think ultimately in our society, we forget to reinforce each other. You know, I always tell people, how often has someone told you this week that you're amazing, right? But we don't tell our kids with autism that they're amazing because we think that they don't understand or they can't speak. Or because they can't speak, they don't understand. So I really think the misperception is that they don't want to be a part, which they do. And they really want to socialize and be accepted, but they just don't have all the skills. So we'll really hope that our society can start to be more accepting, and let them have a chance, as we do with some of our shyer individuals in our community.
I'm really glad that you brought up the point that us as a society needs to know how to interact with these individuals as well, because I hear quotes all the time within the autism community, and I'm paraphrasing, but they say, why do we have to go through so much therapy and so much training to normalize our socialization strategies when there's nothing being done for the neurotypical population to be able to interact with us? And that's why Megan and I are in such a great position as Miss America title holders to go and teach the children at a very young age how to interact with people who have communication differences, and when to recognize when there might be a challenging behavior that needs to be addressed and whatnot. But I think from what we've learned from different advocates too, is just finding a middle ground on how the neurotypical population and the neurodiverse community can really connect and start to communicate. And sometimes that's allowing the person who has autism to initiate that conversation. But like you said, sometimes it's completely okay to just walk up and give that positive affirmation or that positive energy and be welcoming, because like you said, even if they can't verbally communicate that they want to say hi, it's still there. Those intentions are still behind there. And also, I downloaded the app while you were speaking and I checked it out. It's so great. I worked as a direct support professional for a few years, and I can definitely see this being useful on outings with individuals when they get impatient in the car or just in general, and being able to show them, okay, you know, after 3 smiley faces or whatnot, we can go home, or however it works for that situation. But that is such a great tool that I hope our audience can benefit from. But as we're wrapping up today, what is an overarching idea or message of autism acceptance that you'd like our viewers to take away from today?
I think for acceptance is really letting them know that our kids are amazing. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to be a part of this interview was because of Megan. Megan has shown such a passion and advocacy for this population, you know, and we don't see a lot of that. I'm a professional, so this is my profession, but you guys are Miss American, you know, pageant holders. You guys have a different platform than us professionals. And it takes you guys to bring us professionals in to to your guys' platform, because that's what's going to take. You guys, Megan has been such an amazing, find, I want to say, for Special Needs Coffee, because she's really inspired so many kids here at Special Needs Coffee to really want to have confidence in themselves and to really strive to be bigger. And that's, and it's not that Megan had to do a lot. It was just to show interest and to show that she cared. And she's done some really, she's talked to our kids. She's shown interest. She's sent out a picture of her being Miss Central Miss Pennsylvania. And it really, just a picture alone inspired our kids. So I really believe, for me as a professional, is just to have people like you, Francisca and Megan, just to continuously show the love and support, when you guys can just continue to be, on so many other platforms, because you have to think you guys are on a platform because of who you guys are. You're not just your beauty, but the character that you guys have inside. And with that character that you guys have inside, it's just a testament that it's great that our kids can have you guys just bring your character out and show that love for them. Because without it, it's just professionals like me just trying every day to make the world better. But it's so great to have advocates like you guys, supporters like you guys that are doing interviews like this. And I really believe that's truly the awareness that I will love, is just what you guys are doing. I think because you guys bring a different audience, people be like, oh, I may give a kid with autism a chance. I may read a little bit about them when they might have not have read about, this population before, or given them a chance because of YouTube. And I just want to thank both of you guys for, all you do, and just wish you guys all the best, because you guys are going to be amazing. You guys are already amazing. And it just helps our autism community all over the world because of what you two are trying to do. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much. You have us both smiling from ear to ear. That's been our hope from the beginning of both of our advocacy journeys. We've known people and been friends with people, and maybe even had distant relatives who have been diagnosed with autism, but we kind of walk through this advocacy role without knowing exactly what it's like, because we don't have a diagnosis ourselves. So what I have personally learned throughout my journey is that once you at least give it a chance and you realize how interesting it is, and it opens up your mind a lot to different kinds of living, different kinds of lived experiences. So I think that's a testimony to anyone out there who might not have a connection to autism. Well, you might just be surprised how interested you'd be in advocating for this group of people. And once you meet somebody in this demographic, how passionate you can become, even if you don't have a direct connection to it. So I really appreciate all of your compliments. It's been such a pleasure to work with you and your company, and especially the students and people that you serve. I'm all the way over in Pennsylvania, but it's been really cool to connect to you Californians
Yeah.
through this whole pandemic, and to stay in touch. And we will always be happy to support behavioral autism therapies and special needs coffee in any way that we can. So speaking of that, you're welcome. Speaking of that, in terms of upcoming events for our viewers to help support, or how they can get involved in your mission, what are some things that are coming up either in the California area, or anything that anyone can get involved with to help support?
Yes. This particular month is a mental health awareness month. So Special Needs Coffee is trying to break the stigma on the different challenges that are being faced out there in the mental health industry. So I would just, ask for people just to do more research. Maybe also find a local organization, and maybe not just donate your money, but maybe your time, just to go meet the amazing individuals. And I would really, truly try to ask all of you guys to just, like you said, go to your local areas and try to enhance their mental health or their autism programs, because there are a lot of amazing individuals out there that you just haven't had an opportunity to meet yet.
Yeah, and it can even be a simple act of kindness. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture, but like you said,
Yes.
sending a picture and just spending 5 minutes to talk with that group of people can really brighten their day and make them feel noticed and accepted and loved.
Yes, yes. And I think that would be, so when it comes down to events, that's kind of what we try to do, is just really try to just, focus on what's manifesting in that particular month, which is mental health. Last month was Autism Awareness Month. Special Needs Coffee was able to raise over $4,000 for different organizations. So we're really proud of that. So I would just really encourage for us to just continuously find someone out, maybe even follow them on Instagram, someone pretty amazing that has special needs or autism, because there are some pretty amazing individuals out there that will love to just, hear you on Instagram.
I agree. And we had such a great time really discussing about your personal background and what the community in general can do. And we're so thankful for your time. So thank you for visiting with us on Spectrum Sundays, Larry.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And if you enjoyed this episode and would like to learn more about behavioral autism therapies, please visit their website at behavioralautismtherapies.com and follow BAT on Instagram and Facebook at Behavioral Autism Therapies. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next Sunday.
Thank you for listening to Spectrum Sundays. We are your hosts, Miss Central Pennsylvania, Megan Sinisi,
and Miss Thousand Islands, Francesca D'Alessandro. Please make sure to subscribe to our series and follow us on social media to stay connected to autism professionals and self-advocates.
And just remember, true impact is accomplished through active listening and exploring the world through a variety of perspectives.
Join us next week on Spectrum Sundays to help cultivate a community of inclusion, appreciation, and acceptance around autism.